Welcome to the Easy Speak Speakeasy.
You've unlocked the door to unfiltered mental health and wellness conversations.
And off we go
And
at the
off we
Easy
go.
Speak.
At the Easy Speak, we've got some espresso martinis today.
Yes.
Which is fabulous because neither of us got very much sleep last night.
Nope.
So
That's what happens when we decide to have a board meeting that's going to go till 9 p.m.
Yeah.
And our brains run all night long.
oh my God, I know. I looked over those notes again this morning and I was like, I was like short circuiting. I'm like, we need another retreat.
AKA Summit.
Summit.
You know, a retreat doesn't mean
All right.
always lamping around.
I really just hope this. How do the bartenders make this look so good?
Yes. Yeah. Shake it, shake it, shake it.
All right.
Shake it like
Ooh.
a Polaroid picture.
Ooh, that's cold. I can't get this off now. This is why we need men in our lives.
Oh, this is why?
One of the
What a
reasons.
perfect statement for our conversation
Exactly.
today.
I knew it would be a good one to start with.
Perfecto.
Do you want to check?
Oh, I hope I can
literally-
do this now.
We will. Oh
Thank you.
no, that's not what we need.
Thank you.
We need the top.
What, this?
Yeah.
Is it this?
Yeah, so we can come through the strainer. I don't know if that's going to be possible. I might have froze it out
Usually I leave it a little.
loose.
Do you know how to?
Nope. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. We're improvising. Oh, it's frothy as fuck.
Yeah, watch over your
Ooh.
iPad. Frothy as fuck. That's the way to start the day.
Frothy as fuck.
That's the way to start this episode. What episode number are we on? 4, and I've already lost track. Look at that.
Look at that. Would you look at it?
Episode 4, Who Runs the World? Girls.
I did not put enough
I'm
alcohol.
going to need you to shake it some more.
I want to shake it some more.
There's not enough for
Okay.
us in there.
No. Just trying to
At
be.
the Easy Speak. At the Easy Speak. At the Easy Speak. So who runs the world?
Yep.
Girls. We're going to be talking about, because it is a very, very special month of the year, International Women's Month.
Yeah.
Slay. Shake it and slay it. Shake it and slay it. Slay it and shake it.
I wish I looked.
There you go.
Here we go.
Look at you, don't need no man, girl.
Got some elbow grease.
You can make your own drinks without a man.
It's true.
Look at that. A real
yeah.
modern day woman you are.
I know.
You could shake ice.
Doing shit myself. I will say, I did get sweaty, and I don't love that, but it's okay.
Keep your day job. Every bartender that's listening is like, oh, really?
That didn't sound
You're
like
sweaty, are you?
Literally, though. Oh, these look lovely.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I can deal with that.
Nom nom.
I can deal with it. We like our espresso martinis dark over here. A lot of people in the East Coast specifically like to put like creamy stuff in it. And it's
Yeah.
like, no,
No, wrong.
we don't do that.
So we should talk about our napkins,
Oh, yeah.
because this kind of has a lot to do with our month and our topic
Yeah.
of life here, mental health. Frida.
We got our girl Frida.
We got a shot on Frida?
Frida Kahlo.
Famously known for her paintings and equally her unibrow.
Yes.
Which, shout out
Yes.
to all women who just like own who they are.
Yes, I love that.
That's what I love
Yes.
about that.
Yes. Yeah, she could have easily plucked it or whatever. Like, it's like a thing with women. Like, you're not supposed to have like extra body hair. You know? So-
Well, in the United States,
Oh, yeah.
other places,
That's true.
I think it's less
It's less a thing.
quote unquote gross.
Yeah.
But here,
Yeah.
it's like, did you go get waxed?
I know.
Da-da-da,
I know. I mean, till this day, like, I know it's wrong, but like when I see a girl with like her armpits not shaved, it's like shocking.
Shocking?
Yeah, I'm like,
It's not shocking to me anymore.
no.
I feel like when I was younger, I felt shocked by it.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of women are just embracing like el natural.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
If it works for them, it works for them.
Listen, I don't want anybody's armpits rubbed in my face, male or female.
True that.
So as long as it's not being rubbed in my face, I'm happy. Do what you want with your underarm situation.
It's so true. It's like, mind your business. Like, why do you even care what somebody else is doing with their armpits?
Like,
But it is
This
shocking.
is a part of the body that actually nobody should care about what anybody else is doing with their armpits.
It's true.
Or their face or anywhere else, quite frankly. But
True that.
so
My
yeah,
body, my choice.
she owned that uni.
She did.
So for those who don't know who she is, she was a famous painter from Mexico. And what was interesting about her when we were researching for today's episode is that there's a lot of mystery around her death.
Yeah.
So she died in, I think it was 1954.
Yep.
Was it 54 or 47?
1954, she was 47 years old.
Look at me with these numbers.
Yeah.
And it was reported that she died of a pulmonary embolism. However, there's a lot of mystery and maybe cover up based on stigma.
Yep.
That she may have died by suicide or an overdose, which may have caused the suicide.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because a few days prior to her death, she wrote in her diary, "I hope the exit is joyful. I hope never to return, Frida." So
Ooh, that's heavy.
it is.
Because, like, what else would she be referring to?
Right.
Like, yeah. I mean, I can imagine. So she was from Mexico, right? So, back then, 1950s, there's a lot of stigma. I mean, we are still very steeped in stigma today in 2023, so I can only imagine. So, like, especially because she was such an important figure. I actually don't even really know, like, why she was so famous. Like, I know her because of this. You know what I mean? Like this caricature or like this painting of her with the unibrow and the flowers all in her hair and like the vibrancy and like you can feel like, I feel like when I look at not just these napkins, but like the actual paintings, I feel like that she was such a vibrant person and you could tell she was living by the beat of her own drum. Like you could tell that through her art. But I didn't know like if that's the reason why she became famous for her art or if there was like a deeper story to it.
From what I read, it was that she became famous for her art, mostly because a lot of her art is self-portraits,
Right.
different types of self-portraits. And I don't think, especially in that time, women were painting an enormous amount of self-portraits,
Yeah.
especially in that culture.
Yeah.
If we're wrong, please feel free to let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
So we can all be better educated about women who have made waves in the world.
Yeah.
But I always think it's interesting that there's somebody who I feel like everybody knows her face
Yep.
and knows that she was a painter.
Yep.
But I was taken aback when I saw that there was a mystery around her death that was linked to mental health. And to me, it feels like it's not a mystery. I feel like, okay, a woman that was achieving things in a time that women were sort of just like starting to have a place in the world.
Yeah.
Really, which is kind of wild when you think about in the 50s. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
when I think about the 50s, I don't know. I picture like what the movies
Yeah,
puts out about the world.
yeah.
But I think it was a lot, like women didn't have the ability to do things in the 50s. I don't think they could even open bank accounts without their husbands in the 50s.
You needed like a man, you know?
You needed a man.
Yeah,
Thank God you didn't need a man to make this drink.
I know, that's true. But, I mean, I think that's interesting. Like, I love that women have more rights today. And I think that obviously that's what's correct. And I think it's interesting to try to understand like what the thought processes were behind some of those things that were in place. Like, you know, I think that largely the rhetoric has always been that it's, you know, it was men trying to like suppress women's voices and like keep them down. But as of late, you know, I've heard a different perspective where it's like, you know, it was kind of like a way to like structure society to help like delineate responsibility essentially in like a certain fashion, right? So like in addition to all of that, women also were like not in the workforce a lot. They were staying at home, and like the powers that be back then saw that as being like an essential component to like society, right? Like in the way society functions. Like the men go out and they are the breadwinners, and the women stay home with the kids and they nurture, right? And it's like, you know, that's not like a far cry from when humans like first developed in the world, right? Like pre-developed world and society, right? Like we know it was like pretty delineated in terms of who was doing what. Like the men were the hunters and the women were staying home, and they were like gatherers, but they were like cooking the meals and like raising the children. And so, you know, I think that a lot of like those things that were in place were kind of like trying to preserve those like gender roles, because that's like how society was spawned. You know what I mean? Like, and so, you know, the whole fight against it, you know, obviously as society, you know, we continue to grow and evolve and become different, and, you know, we need to adapt. But yeah, I just think it's interesting to think about it from like that perspective versus it being a thing that like a negative thing, like people were trying to keep women down. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. When you were describing that, I was literally picturing cavemen.
Yeah.
Like prior to you actually saying like cavemen, and you
Yeah.
were talking about
Yeah.
like delineation of roles in society. I was like,
Yeah.
this is going down a caveman road.
Yeah.
And then you said
Cavemen in cultures, like there are still certain cultures where there's like very clear gender roles, like outside of the US, right? And like it works for them, you know?
I feel like in most of the places in the world where there are very clear roles like that, the women are treated horribly.
Maybe. I mean, I'm thinking of like tribes in Africa. Like I don't necessarily think like the women are always being treated horribly. I think
There's some
it's
pretty like brutal things that happen to women.
Of course. And I'm not trying to like minimize those things. I'm just saying that sometimes having like a structure around how we're moving along is helpful, you know, and like having certain carved out roles, you know. And I don't think it's up to like society to determine that on like an individual level, right? But like, you know, and there are plenty of women today who are stay-at-home wives and like do all the cooking, cleaning, raising of the children, and the husband is the breadwinner, right? And for a lot of those women, it works for them, you know. And then there are some where they're miserable, and you know, but they have the opportunity, if they are miserable now, to like do something different, right? And so I think that makes sense. And I also think that like a lot of times women who are stay-at-home moms and like play, you know, have those like traditional, well, for lack of better words, gender role split, like there's like a kind of like a stigma against that now, right? Like if you enjoy doing all of those things and playing the traditional gender roles as like they used to be, people kind of look at you sideways. They're like, like think that something's wrong, right? But like that's just how that couple or that, you know, individual chooses to live their lives. And it's like kind of a lack of a double standard, you know, as it relates to that. If we're going to then turn around and be like, oh, you enjoy doing this, like you're not reaching your full potential, or like you're relying too heavily on a man, or whatever the case may be, you know. I just feel like I see that shift happening in society, and like I don't necessarily like that either, you know. I don't agree with it, you know. My own perspective is I'm pretty traditional, I would say, for the most part.
Yeah, definitely traditional. I'm not. This is why, like, we have this great relationship, because we like have that like yin and yang situation.
Yeah.
Also, this is the theme of International Women's Month. It's a hashtag this year. Embrace equality.
Yeah.
Embrace equity.
Equity. Okay.
Embrace
yeah,
equity.
That's a better word.
Yeah. And they actually wrote something. So, embracing gender equity. This is the statement on the International Women's Day site. Embracing gender equity means giving women what they need to be successful in all facets of their life, including social, economic, cultural, and political realms. Which,
That's cool.
what? The way you said that's cool and simultaneously had like an eye twitch and eye roll is pretty wild.
I felt this eye twitch.
And like your right eye twitched and your left eye rolled.
I
And
know.
I hope somebody caught that on camera, because we gotta save that for October.
I'll let you finish. I have thoughts, but I'll let you finish.
I feel like that's a nice, broad definition, which is probably your reaction.
Yeah, I'm like, the fuck does that even mean? Like, what? Okay. Yeah. I can get behind that.
I mean, I think the point is like, a lot of times women don't have what they need to be successful in these areas. Like, we talk about this in mental health all the time.
Okay.
Like, if we look at this through a mental health lens related to women's mental health.
Okay. Mental health. Yep.
Okay. And this says having what they need to be successful in their social life, in their economic life, culturally, and politically, in political realms.
Okay.
Looking at that through how those impacts how those different areas can impact a woman's mental health, I think is pretty profound.
Yeah.
Because if we let's focus our conversation to America, because we could go way off topic if we didn't.
That's true.
But I feel like, you know, for instance, socially, like even if we look at just social media, you know, women are judged differently than men, you know, on what I think women have to think more about what they put out into the world. And if they choose to take the stance that they're not going to, which is totally fine to do that, then they run the risk of, like, who knows what down the line. You know, like, I feel like I hear so many more people talk about with women and girls, be careful what you put on the internet, because this may impact you down the line with your career or your college acceptance, or, you know, those sorts of things. And I don't feel like I hear those conversations equally with men.
Okay. I don't have a good grasp of, like, how to, like, quantify that, but I mean, probably. But, like, also, like everyone should be, you know, even if the men aren't getting the same kind of like, you know, like pushback, like it doesn't mean they shouldn't be. So like,
Yeah.
are we saying like not to push back on women, or are we saying like also push back on the men?
I'm saying,
Because like I think people should be careful what they post on social media, just in general. You know what I mean?
yeah, I'm not saying that I have a answer on which route that is.
Yeah.
I just think that the statement of fact that it's more on one side than the other.
Yeah.
It's sort of like when we talk about race issues, you know, like everybody should be treated the way that white males are,
Right.
right? Like,
Right.
but they're not.
Right.
So I feel like this is the same sort of issue, is like
Yeah.
women and men should be, everybody that's walking on this planet should be treated equally, you know?
I know. I mean, that's tough for me, because I feel like inherently what's difficult about that statement that is not the same as like race is that women and men are fundamentally different, like across the board, like
Different, not equal.
different. They could be equal, but like that's why we're talking about equality versus being equal. Like equity and equality are two different things, right? And so like, you know,
Maybe we define that for folks that are listening.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes people don't
they don't understand the
understand
difference
the
between
difference.
the two.
Yeah.
So like from my perspective, I think I'm right about this, but I don't know. Like equality is essentially saying to somebody like, okay, so there's that meme, right, where there's a tall fence,
I love this
right?
meme.
That's the perfect way to kind of like visualize it, right? There's a tall fence, and equality is saying like you're short, no matter what height you are, you get the same size block. And if you can look over the fence, good for you. If you can't, you're SOL, right? Like whatever. But equity is saying we recognize that you're shorter than the 6 foot tall person, so you're gonna need a, you know, maybe 4 blocks stacked on top of each other so that you can have the same view as a 6 foot tall person, right? So
everybody can equally watch the game for free.
Right. Exactly.
Without buying
tickets, right? And so like when we think about that in terms of like gender and like norms and like, you know, the ways that we approach things with men and women, like I don't think equality is the goal or should be the goal, because we're totally different. The way in which we approach life is different because our biological underpinnings are different. We know that the way a female brain versus a male brain typically works, right? There's always outliers, but we know that we're wired differently, right? Like women have a greater capacity, for example, to articulate emotions, right? And you know, there could be something to be said about the fact that society doesn't necessarily allow boys and men to like develop that, right? But still remains true, like on a biological level, that part of our brain is more developed than the male part of the brain. That's just one example of a plethora of the differences between women and men. And so like whenever I hear statements towards like equality for women, like we're equal to men, I'm like, I am not equal to a man. Like I do not want to be seen as equal to a man, please, like, because I'm not. I want to be seen as like the woman that I am, and from there we can make decisions, not based off of what's going on with the dudes. Like that's like, you know, so like when I hear like broad statements like that, I'm like, what are we actually referring to? Like, what's the tangible thing? And I think that's part of what makes this conversation so like elusive and convoluted, is that like we're not getting down to like the nitty gritty of it. We're still floating around in like theoretical, philosophical, like just feelings, and you know, which is like a very womanly thing to do.
What?
It's true.
I cannot believe you just said that.
It's true. Women are way more driven by emotions than men.
Wrong answer.
Agree to disagree. It's true. It's true. That's what I was just saying about
I wish we had like a button right here that I could be like.
It's not to say that women are incapable of looking past their emotion. I don't think that women are victims to emotions. I'm just saying that our emotions, I think, oftentimes play a larger role in what we say or do, right? This is why I think women make great political leaders, right? Because they are able to have vast amounts of empathy and able to kick in that nurturing instinct to say, hey, no, maybe we don't need to go to war. Maybe we just need to have another conversation, right? But that's coming from a place of like empathy and nurturing and feeling. And I think oftentimes that's not like, you know.
Well, I think when we look at like, I'm going to venture outside of the U.S. for a second, but when we look at some of the countries that fared the best through the pandemic, they were the countries where women were the leaders.
Yeah. Yes. New Zealand. Yeah.
So, you know, when we think of equity, you know, and to put it like, you know, one of the things that's listed here is political realms. So if we take that example of that meme and how many boxes each person needs to be able to stand and look over, it like makes me think of like the game of golf, right? Like everybody comes into the game of golf with a handicap, so that you're starting like at an equal starting block.
Right.
But we don't do that. Those things aren't set up in our society.
Yeah.
So like for instance, we know that we have far less representation as women in the political realm. Should there be X amount of seats, you know, assigned to available to women who are running, right? Because you just said it perfectly.
It's like affirmative action though, like, which I don't agree with as well, but like.
Yeah, but this is like when you say like, oh, we're getting all caught up in our feelings, but then like there has to be some type of an actionable step. But it's like, I feel like often like thwarted down before even like thinking through it.
Yeah.
Kind of like you just did to what I just said.
I know. I mean,
You conservatives.
I just have a hard time on saying like we're gonna make X amount of seats for a designated identity role. Like, don't even get us started on the fact that people, you know, gender identity is a thing, right? Like people just kind of deciding what their gender is, right? Like,
I don't think people decide what their gender is.
okay, well, it happens all the time.
What happens all the time?
That people are like, I was born with these parts, but like, I'm a different gender. But like, technically that's not like, again, I'm just talking about it from like a biological standpoint.
That was decided by white people.
That's
by
not a thing.
White men decided what biology means.
I think that's a slippery slope, but that wasn't my point.
Okay.
That wasn't my point. My point essentially was that if we start to say like we're carving out seats just based off of people's identities, right? Then I think we're doing ourselves a disservice. I want whoever's best for the job in that seat. I don't care.
So that's not happening.
I don't care. No, it's not. That's why politics sucks, right? It's not happening, and I don't know if it ever will because it's all very convoluted and fucked up. And also, like, I think that if we start to say, like, oh, you know, then we're eliminating competition on some level because we're narrowing it down to just like based off of a certain identity. And I think
I don't think it necessarily eliminates competition. I think there are a lot of women that don't pursue a career in the political space or what are these other areas? In economics or in other areas. These are all areas that are dominated by men, right? So when you know that the job is hard to begin with, you already have to be the best of the best to get these jobs. And then on top of it, you know that you are going to have this disparity of, like, if you're not a male, you're going to the bottom of the pile. And if you're a black woman, you're going even further to the bottom of the pile. If you're a black woman with a name that's hard to pronounce, I don't even know if you're in the pile.
Yeah.
Right? Like, all of these kinds of things that happen to women that don't happen to men.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is the thing that leads back to the importance of thinking about through these things with a mental health lens. Because as women, trying to find a space in the world and feeling like, damn, I haven't even opened my laptop yet, and I already feel like there's an elephant sitting on the top of it, of barriers that are in the way, is hugely impactful on, like, how women and girls are affected and the level of anxiety that we see growing and becoming seemingly, like, insurmountable, and depression, and why there's just wait lists across the country for clinical services, and less people wanting to be in clinical roles because it's hard. It's really hard work.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, a lot of times women's rights aren't, oh, bless you, little thing.
I'm trying not to. I have way too much sneeze.
You love to sneeze amidst this podcast.
Yeah, have I sneezed a lot?
You've sneezed at least once before, right?
Do I sneeze?
I think there was at
Is that a
least
thing?
one other sneeze that she was like, take that out. And I was like, leave it in.
Oh, yeah. It's likely.
Anyways, I don't know what I was saying, so I'm just going to take a sip of my martini.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you in all of that in terms of, like, when there are barriers, it makes it difficult from a mental health standpoint. That's 100%, right? Like, that's a lot of the work that we do, is trying to remove barriers to accessing a healthy, happy life. And I also am very against this, like, victim mentality mindset that I think also plagues our culture and our society, where people have so much of an external locus of control that internally they can't achieve optimal mental health, because everything that they're feeling and experiencing in life is based off of what's going on around them, and half the time, more than half the time, it's shit they can't control, right? And so, like, when I hear people say things like, people have said these things to me as a black woman, my first name is hard to pronounce, like, it's gonna be that much, you're gonna have to work 12 times harder than people. And, like, if I listen to that, then yeah, I'm gonna, like, go crawl in a corner and cry. Or I can say, like, fuck you, like, I know I'm the shit, and, like, I'm gonna, like, go achieve all of these things, and you guys can watch me do it, which so many women have done, right? Like, we can highlight so many women even now in the political arena, right? And so I just feel like aversion to taking something that is, like, a societal thing and then streaming it across an individual's experience and saying, like, that's the reason why. You know what I mean? Like, I think, and it goes hand in hand. I think it's also part of, like, we could talk about cancel culture, which I also hate. Like, I feel like we, like, take things and we just kind of give it a broad stroke, rather than, like, also having that, like, sense of individual responsibility and, like, prudence. It's like, if you want to experience something in your life, like, why would you be listening to anybody telling you that, like, you can't? You know what I mean? Like, and that's how I feel. And, I know that there are, like, societal infrastructures that uphold a lot of these inequities, and I'm not saying that they don't exist. I'm just saying that, like, there is some level of individual responsibility for overcoming those and or creating the blueprint for others to follow in your footsteps, rather than just, like, being a victim to it all.
Yeah, but it's also really hard to create a blueprint when you can't get out of bed.
Right. No, it's true.
And I think that's, you know, I've worked with so many parents and families over the years that have felt like no matter how hard they try, they can't get ahead. And, you know, as you know, I'm a very what's wrong with my tongue today?
La 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 la. We said we were gonna do like warm-ups before. We didn't do it.
We didn't even like look up what appropriate warm-ups are. We just get on here and we just start making sounds like we're halfway through and we're like, want to warm up? Me, 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 na, 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 na. Okay. I'm a very resilient person. And like the stubborn Taurus in me is like, as soon as somebody is like, that's not an option, I'm like, I just kicked that whole door down. So let's go. Right? But I don't think everybody has that, you know, and I've worked with a lot of families who are very weighed down or tired from what's happening with their child or what has happened through their life related to mental health and societal impacts. And, you know, as moms or women, they're just like, I like don't have it to like keep up this fight. Never mind like roll out a piece of paper that's this big off across the table and create a blueprint for myself and the generations of women to follow.
Yeah. No, I know.
They're like, actually, I'm just gonna go to take a nap.
Yeah.
Like that meme, and it's like you have so much to do that you take a nap.
Oh yeah, I do that all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Like 20-minute timer.
20, exactly. I'll wake up feeling refreshed. Never happens. I mean, yeah, you know, but then as you're talking, I'm thinking, you know, are we focusing on the wrong things, right? We have that broad ass statement about International Women's Day. What if we were talking about how to build resilience, right? Like, why are we so focused on like the lack, right? Why aren't we talking about how to build resilience, how to empower yourself, how to empower others, how to do the things that will help boost your mental health and stability and like, right? But we just keep harping on, oh, there's inequities, there's inequities, there's inequities. We must fight, we must fight, we must fight. And so like, as people who believe in manifestation, I look at something like that and I say, you're perpetuating the problem rather than coming up with a solution.
I definitely feel the same, you know, like that abundance mindset, you know, is not something that a lot of people, I think, talk about. And a lot of times it takes a lot of self-exploration to get to a point where you can drown out the noise and focus on like, it's definitely a skill set to get to a place where you can allow things to roll off your shoulders.
Right.
You know, and like, even like with us, like, you know, it's not easy building all these things, right? And like, there are times that we definitely get irritated with each other, but we like, I think have that mentality, both of us, that we're like, whatever, like she was having a moment, she was having a moment. And it's like, we just like keep moving on, you know? But I don't think everybody has that ability, you know? If you're like in that fight mode, right? And your mental health has you in that like fight, flight, freeze.
Yeah.
There's an extra F that's recently been added onto that.
I am not aware.
Flight, what? I can't talk today.
Fight, flight.
I feel like fright should be in.
Freeze.
There's a fourth one that people have been saying lately. I'm gonna look it up. Fight.
I can't imagine what it would
flight,
be.
Freeze.
That's not a made-up pop culture situation.
Do you know what it is, Mark?
Mark's
I'm like, are you
the
expert? Anyways, and whatever the fourth one is, I have no idea where I was going with that anymore.
I think
was I saying?
I think you were basically saying that like
when you're in that mode, that you can't. It's so hard to let something roll off your shoulders.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You're like, what'd you say?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, and like that's why like, you know, mental health is important, and you know, I don't want to like minimize it, you know, obviously. I'm a mental health professional. But,
Obviously.
you know, at the same time, I think we just pathologize things way too much. And I think that, you know, at the end of the day, like, women are able to achieve. And, you know, that's the way I choose to kind of look at the world and all that good stuff.
Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn.
Oh, yeah, like where you're just like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
dead. I'm dead.
Here's what I found.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, or fawn. You're just like, I'm gonna go into this bed of poppies, like in the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. I guess fawn is a good one. I'm on board with that being added. I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's.
I knew there was another F.
Yeah, that happens. There's always more F's to give,
I
even when you think there aren't.
I like when I got a new F word in my bag of tricks,
You thought you had no more F's.
but I got just one more.
We got one more. And we gonna use it.
I got one more F to give you.
That's our PSA for why you shouldn't be depressed.
Because you got one
You
more
got
F
one more
to give.
F to give.
Pull it out to the bottom of your soul.
Yes. Oh my gosh, this is such an interesting topic, though. I feel like we didn't even like.
We didn't, because
dive
the
deep.
reason we decided we were going to talk about gender roles was from
Valentine's Day
our
episode.
Valentine's episode, Love and Liquor,
Yeah.
when we were talking about you prancing around like a little piece of candy.
Yes.
Oh my God. Vama.
I just, you know, we touched on it already. We know that I'm just like so traditional, and I love like being super feminine and like don't want to lift a finger, don't ever want to sweat. Like I just want to like be pretty and like have babies and like, you know, let the men do all the like hard shit.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I feel like I
You-
just need a few apps. TaskRabbit, Instacart, my landscaper coming over, my cleaners.
Not
I'm
to
like,
say,
what?
not to say that we only love men in our lives because of the things they can do for us. That's not what I mean.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Why else do you love men in your life?
Because I appreciate their perspective and like their guidance. When you have a good man in your life who's like a leader, you know, like think about the good dads in the world or like the good husbands, like that's great. I love being a passenger princess and turning my brain off.
A passenger princess?
Yes, you don't know what that is?
No.
Oh, it's the best
on.
life ever.
Excuse me, I need to get my drink.
It's the best
Oh,
life ever.
I can already feel
It's
the
the-
chunks
It's
rising.
the best. I just get in the car and my brain goes doo, 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 doo. And there's like a hand on my thigh and I don't know where we're going, but I know we're gonna get there. And I don't know how much it costs, but I know it's gonna be taken care of. And like, you know, if I am feeling like I'm having difficulty with a decision, like guys are really good at just being like, this, you know, I'm like going back and forth. I'm like, but I feel like, but then I also feel like, but then I also feel like male guidance is like, as a person who identifies as being very feminine and traditional, it's like perfect.
Alert. Nobody should ever get into a car with a man not knowing where you're going because they put their hand on your thigh.
Okay, if it's
and
your
go
husband
driving around.
or your dad or your brother wouldn't put your hand on your thigh
Or
your
dad.
if
Double
it's,
alert.
If it's a man that you trust, like you don't need to know where you're going. You know you're safe. You know you're protected. You know it's all taken care of. That's my point. Like it's nice to have that in my life. It's like such a freeing feeling versus having to always think about everything all the time. Nobody likes to do that. I don't like to
I
do that.
love it.
I don't.
I actually prefer it. I do.
Yeah.
I want to be the one that's in control. Thank you.
Yeah, no thanks.
Also,
I do enough of that at work. Like I don't need to be doing that. at
I'm
home.
not like anti-relationship, anti-man. I just feel like that sort of a relationship, like gender role in terms of like gender role, that is like not my cup of tea. Like my marriage, I got married, and the whole time we were like, before we got married, I was like fully me. Me, like talking like this, going out being me, social, you know, talk to everybody in the world, ordering takeout because that's how we eat in my house, or whatever. Both of my children have become amazing cooks. Why? Necessity.
Yeah.
Okay. It's called skill building.
It's called survival.
It's called skill
Survival.
building in your mother
Michaela,
as a
she's
child.
Like, yeah.
Yes, that's how you build skills in your children.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So, and then I got married, and it was like,
He's like, where's my dinner?
yeah, and I was like,
You're like, go buy it.
I'm like, apparently at McDonald's. Don't get me anything gross. Like, what?
Meanwhile, I'm like, oh my God, like for dinner next week, I'm thinking like
Next week?
short ribs on Wednesday.
Ugh.
And I love it. Anyway, what a lovely conversation we've had today.
I'm taking a nap.
She's taking a nap. We hope you stick with us
My brain
for the meditation.
powering down.
We want to thank the people at BCA
Yes.
for giving us this lovely space
That we're vibing.
that we're vibing in.
Yeah, we're bringing new things to this set. So if you decide you want to watch us live and in person,
You can see the set grow.
you'll just like
And get better.
now, like we're only at episode 4, and we're already like, okay, all of our lipsticks need to be out here.
Yeah.
Like it's just getting
Another
to that
plant
point.
and another plant and a throw. Next
another
time
one.
there will be throw pillows.
Throw
And,
pillows.
wait till you see what the set looks like next time. We're going shopping this weekend. It's
Oh
gonna be
yeah,
so
yeah,
fun.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm,
yeah.
I'm still on the Rihanna high.
Oh yeah. Is that Rihanna? I don't know. And also, yeah, so stick with us for the meditation if you want. And what's the other thing we want to say? Don't forget to
Subscribe.
rate, review, and subscribe.
Subscribe, rate, and review.
Subscribe, rate, and review. We love you.
We heart you. Women power forever. Who,
Who
runs the world? Girls.